Greetings, everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond. Thank you so much for joining me for another release here. This would be bonus 3 for my special occasion entitled The Future Series of Nahor and Princess Aamina. So thank you so much for joining me today. Let's go ahead and get started. Just got to cover a couple of things like I usually do, go through the rundown. And this particular podcast is a premium podcast. I am doing a special with this series that will last at least till the first week of December, actually. I know I said by November, but actually it would be to the first part of December when it will actually end. And then there's something else coming, which leads me to my next touch on with my big announcement that I will announce that soon, but not too soon. And you'll learn more about that later. Do like to go over a couple of other things. This particular podcast do focus mostly on my production, which is MOLIAE. That started off with my book, Mitsrayim, a memoir. I do other short stories. Right now, I haven't really decided when or if I'm able to touch back on the production I started earlier this year in season 2. That was Atlantis. So again, I just have to let you know when I finally decide if that's going to be in the timeline. But for season 3, I do know for right now we are going to focus on Nahor and Princess Aamina. So the production MOLIAE is in the prep stage for the prestige return of the MOLIAE stage play, which will be the 3rd show. It is the big show with most of the characters from my book, where prior it was just the 5 characters: Princess Aamina, the 2 kings, Damal and Danielle, Nahor and Selma. But this time with the stage play, which by the way is going to be the only stage play. I don't foresee it coming back after I do the return for the 3rd show. That's that. And I want to recap that I'm having my cafe press, my merchandise. I'm connecting with Cafe Press. The links to get there to shop for the merchandise for this podcast and the official website MOLIAE. Please check that out if you want to support this podcast. Check out the merchandise where they do have a 30-day return policy. People that are not in the United States does have access to order from Cafe Press. So you won't have any problem with that because I do see some followers outside the United States, which I do appreciate. Thank you for that. So if you want to help the show, go ahead and purchase the merchandise. You will get those links in the description. So that's cafepress.com/Nichel Anderson Short Stories and Beyond, or the cafepress.com/MOLIAE. Let's see here. The other things I want to talk about is just to go over the commercial ads again, which I think I'm going to continue to say that at each juncture of my opening, going through my little points here before we get to the short story, is please listen to the commercial, okay? Right? If you feel like, I don't want to listen to it, what have you, you can put it on low. I don't have them coming in the middle of my podcast because I felt, let's kind of stopping the whole flow. Getting at the end of the podcast is when you would get those commercials, and that does help, like I mentioned before. And so if you do like the podcast, please share it if you like it. Please consider actually joining Spreaker. And that's how I can see I know I have more followers, but I guess actually go through that process. Why bother when you can just listen to it? I get it. But it does help to show, to see that. Oh, look, I have a new follower. It's like, oh, wow. Comment, Hey, I like that episode. That's my favorite character, or what have you. Who is your favorite character? Okay, log in. It's free. It's Spreaker. And just say, I like that character. Oh, you're doing a good job. But nonetheless, it's good to hear, right? Let me get to the highlights for this bonus 3, which is entitled, What We Seek, We Shall Receive. So in this particular episode of the future series of Nahor and Princess Aamina, we're still on the timeline where they are quite young still. They spend a lot this is the time period. Now remember, the season 1 and season 2, let me touch on that for anybody that's just coming into my world here, of my podcast, of my short stories. It was based on before the time of Princess Aamina, which is episode 1, season 1. That was the time before Princess Aamina was on the scene, of course. Nahor wasn't there yet. Salma, King Dama. It was only King Daniel, because he's the older one out of those 5 that connects to those 5 that I only concentrated on when I did my first stage play of this story, right? So at any rate, fast forward from that timeline from season 1 and season 2 of my podcast. Now we're fasting forward. I will return back to where I left off, which was episode 52, right? In season 2 back in May. I just haven't made that announcement because other things is coming up, and so I don't really want to, say that too ahead of myself. So I will be returning back where we left off because it's good. I mean, I got some things I got to tell you. Some things was coming through, and I just can't tell you yet. But I'm talking about this now. I will be returning back to that timeline. Right now, we just fast forward just a bit. I just felt that in my spirit to focus on Nahor. He was coming through real strong back in April. Just to kind of show how, and I'm learning this too, right? Because in my book, it was just that first scene. Like I had so many, like in a sense, seeing so many different visions of what was going on. I mean, it was like snapshot of a camera, just pictures and pictures and pictures and images, and then when I finally sat down, that was the strongest one that came through, which gave me the indication to just type it out. And when I did, that was the scene. And now understanding how they were, he was always like that. He was always coming up with things to spend some time, or coming up with things that she never seen or heard, or if she did heard about it, she never knew she would get the opportunity to experience that. And so this started the seed where he realized that he could give her something that not too many people could, at least at that moment of time. Because once she was meeting King Daniel and King Damad, I was just taking it all out. So he had up his game. But nonetheless, right now is about Nahor, and he has her attention. So that's what we're going to focus on, okay? Today, where it's another opportunity for them to learn about each other. Now, the previous bonus to a moment to remember is just where he was, in fact, didn't really want to communicate a lot. Something happened at the Mystery School of Thought. Princess Aamina was there to kind of motivate him and encourage him to see beyond that and to look at what he did do and not he didn't do. So it seemed like she definitely was very kind and very understanding and saw him as a friend. Because remember, they was basically born the same year. I call it SAR, but the same year, because in December of 2018 is where I did those shorts of a short and that's where we found out that Ezra's wife was pregnant, which now of course we can go ahead and say it was Nahor, and of course Queen Hagar was pregnant, which we could say now was Aamina. So they've been knowing each other since birth. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and get started with this. Okay, let's just move on and get it started. Let's go. So let's begin. For this week of my podcast show, season 3, 2019 to 2020, Nichel Anderson, Short Stories and Beyond, for the future series featuring Nahor and Princess Aamina, entitled What We Seek, We Shall Receive. Opening scene. It was mid-Absu from the north in Mitsrayim. Princess Aamina and Nahor was hiding under a stone ridge within the long hall of Kanet that adjoined to the palace, east ring, and a part of the royal Thebes of Ezra, the high-rank herbalist and scientist of Mitsrayim and the royal family. It overlooked the vast fields of floor levels of the palace and glimpse of sand dunes afar. Just at the right moment of Absu, continuing to capture the moment before the King Ru raised Ru, another, and an image of pyramids would peek through, just as Nahor once saw before. It was Nahor that had recently discovered the fascinating aspect of the way Absu delivered him a unique gift that he started to enjoy sharing with his good friend now, Princess Aamina. She seemed to relish in each new moment of awe and wonder as he would wait till after the second Mystery School of Thought classes to inform her of such a scene. He waited until her cousins from Kush and Net rulership of King Sapal that also attended the mystery schools of thought for Princess Aamina would finish, and at least she would be ready to come and talk to him. The Mitsrayim guards would allow Nahor to walk up to talk to Princess Aamina as she concluded talking with her cousins. For his connection to the royal family by his father Ezra, and ordered as approved by King Milan and General Conrad Tatar, Nahor got that special moment to share with Princess Aamina when she was able to focus and to talk to him after her school studies. On this day, though, Nahor had informed Princess Aamina as a code to their message for the guards not to hear of their plan to meet up later in the day for a surprise that he would often say, as of lately, show her of. She nodded and tried to contain both of her excitement and glee, for she knew she only had a few moments that she were allowed to talk to Nahor before the evening voila. It was a treat indeed, as the outings had become over time. Now was the moment they met up, and she sat under the stone-cold ridge table and watched the wonder. Suddenly, there were footsteps, and Nahor motioned to Princess Aamina not to say a word. He got up and walked towards the sound. It was Princess Hannah, now in our time what we consider a teenager, protective of Princess Aamina as always, and stern follower of the royal protocol in action. In particular, being on time and adhering to their mother, Queen Hagar, to the protocol rules set forth. Princess Hannah entered the room and she spoke. Nahor, I am seeking my sister. Have you seen her? She asked, as 8 female attendants were standing behind her at her command and 4 Egyptian guards thereafter. Nahor spoke. At this moment, here I do not. He only gazed in her eyes for a moment and a half, for he knew she, Princess Hannah, had the ability to telepath his thoughts and emotions. Princess Hannah looked over and around the area before back at Nahor. Sure, I see. Her female attendants here said she wanted to go to the knitting room, but she did not enter. It was not wise to leave without them. I know she is allowed, after seeing her cousins leave for their trip home after the School of Thought, that she would be able to see you, or you will be able to talk with her briefly before moving on to the MOLIAE or Walu protocol. If you see her, please instruct where she needs to be. Our mother, the Queen, is seeking us both. I will hold off and keep our mother at bay for a while. Nahor bowed and nodded before Princess Hannah. As you wish, Princess Hannah, he said. Princess Hannah smiled and nodded as the young Nahor, still a young boy, but still in a way that she always trusted Nahor. She smiled a bit before she turned to leave with the other female attendants and guards. Nahor returned to the hiding space where Princess Aamina's eyes grew wide for his impression that she was not found out. Nahor gave her a soothing smile of comfort, and she beamed lovely. He sat back down next to her to continue to enjoy the moment of abspu, finally letting Kingo win to conquer another khatum over Mitsrayim. Princess Aamina spoke softly. These are the times that are of treasure. She spoke, gazing ahead of what she saw, the beautiful horizon. Nahor spoke. Soon your commune of leadership in 8 more Kadum cycles at the age of 12. This moment will help you with the transition to have your peace within, that you will achieve it. Princess Aamina looked down. Arshay, I fear I might not succeed as you think of me, Nahor, and as my father wished for me. Nahor spoke in concern. Do not focus on what you might not do, but what you will. The ancients know all, and you will be good in your commune of leadership trials. He looked back out, watching the once bright Apsu rays dim across the horizon over Mitsrayim. Princess Aamina spoke. This peacefulness is more freely opening me up to possibilities. Beyond other moments, she managed to smile and relax. Nahor spoke, smiling before slowly looking back at her. There is something I wish to show you soon that I discovered. It is not here in the palace. We have to go to it. Princess Aamina sat up straight, and the biggest smile of curiosity came across her face. And then she spoke. To where? Insane.